everybody. Welcome back to the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you guys for your continued support. Please make sure you're continuing to like the videos, subscribe if you're not already. There's about 50% of the people that watch my videos now that are subscribed and 50% that are not subscribed. So if you support my content, the way you can help out me and the algorithm for free is to just subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment on the video and share the content. That's the best way that you can help me non-financially. I do have a Patreon if people are interested in supporting me financially, and I do big thank you to my Patreon members and anybody that has joined my channel. Really appreciate it. It just means the world to me. Donations aren't expected, so whenever I get something, it's really appreciated. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or anything like that, and so I'm going to do a moment of silence on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my return guest for the day. Go ahead and reintroduce yourself and where you went, and just like a brief introduction about.
Yeah. So my name is Kari Bunn. I went to CEDU, Running Springs campus from April 14th of 1994 until mid-June of 1996. My stay there was very hard, but not as hard as most. I graduated and I was easily one of the people that would have been staff if the internet wasn't around and I hadn't read up what cults were. Because I even only found out yesterday that alumni coming back for graduations and workshops the way that my campus was rare even among other CEDU schools. That alumni weren't encouraged to come back for graduations either at RMA or BCA or the other schools. So Jordan and we met over a year ago, and he was like, "Oh, I wanted to talk about CEDU for my podcast." I was like, "How have you done 60 podcasts and you'd only done one CEDU interview?" Mm-hmm. And when we talked, it was very fast that I figured out that you had gone through something very similar to what I did, but at an institutionally abusive level that I was not aware could have been possible. And so I tried to get my friends to come and talk to you. And they did. I interviewed my dorm head, and she told me that she didn't believe, not to fault her, but she's like, "Oh, I don't think that these schools still exist." And I was like, "I'm here to tell you they do." So some of the reason why I wanted to make a documentary is because my life is very affected by my being at CEDU, because my dad is a professional therapist who's a genius who has invented a therapeutic process where he cures people's fear of flying. So even since the last time we've spoken, I was hospitalized against my will for 10 days for making this documentary. And so this subject is, it's not something that I've ever been able to go away from, because my father's professionally doesn't think that I know what's wrong with myself, and I'm 44. So like even right now, I've had him blocked from my phone for months. I don't even think he knows that I went to California to do interviews in April. Sorry. So I knew that I knew there was a W.W.A.S.P school tied to CEDU from speaking to you. So I knew that to tell my dad what happened at CEDU, I wanted to make a 2-sided documentary. So I was trying to get people that had positive things to say about the place before the obvious negative ones would come in. So I had 2 staff interviews that I did in between, I think, our first and second podcasts. Going back and listening to those now is like, that stuff was gold. Those people would never say those things again, because I was kind enough to listen to their point of view of what it was like to be staff. And not in a way where I have Stockholm syndrome, or it was more like I know that these people didn't think that CEDU was wonderful in the end. But they did have, they didn't think it was the worst things either. But it was hard. It's hard because even when I would talk about this publicly, people would attack me on Facebook being like, those are our abusers. Why are you talking to our abusers? It's a little like talking to the freaking people that ran Auschwitz. I'm not going to be dishonest with you about that. But when I talked to them and I figure out how they ended up working at Auschwitz, and I found out that half of those people were students that graduated the program in the first place. So it's like, our school, what I came to figure out really recently is the thing that I've been trying to tell people, when I tell people that we were the Hollywood version of all these schools and that we were one of the first one, we were like the original formula of Coca-Cola that still had cocaine in it. You know what I mean? So like, we were the proof of concept. We were the model home. So when you see the brochures for the other troubled teen schools that look like, pretty, they're pretty much showing my campus because that was what my campus looked like. So I figured out while making the documentary that in the 60s, they needed the program to have positive outcomes. Like they needed the people that left to talk positively about the school. And it was mostly the rock stars' kids. It was the famous people's kids. They needed, testimonials that it saved their lives. So the curriculum changed, and I'm still trying to figure out how and when that happened because it's not from where we all think. It's not just synanon and est. It's something else. But man, like, I'm trying to think of where else I should go from here, but it's like, when the program came out, I just started vlogging because it was like we had all been here, like we were all a little community of survivors, like the Survivors Found people and everyone who's done your podcast. We all knew each other, and then like all my friends were coming out of the woodwork, being like, "Oh my God, they said CEDU." They just had the one word. And it's like, yeah, bitch, I've been here this whole time. These are my people. This is Lucifer. He's my boy. Talk to him. Or like, this. And I said a lot of people's names that I thought were on my side. And it turned out that they didn't like me because I think that the staff have an important story to tell and they think it invalidates, abuse, or they just didn't like me being a loudmouth all the time. Either way, it doesn't really matter. But what's happened just even very in the last couple of days is that because I have called out bullshit on every level while I've been making this documentary, because I would find out that people were using people's breaking code silence stories for, I don't know, man, there's been a lot of people trying to get money for their pain, right? And I understand that that's not necessarily a horrible thing, but it's not like helpful because nobody's doing it with each other. Like there's a lot of, books being written and these authors aren't talking to other people, or like there's a lot of like, oh, I'm going to do my movement for my one thing. And it's like, we all kind of wanted one big thing so that we're, and when the program came out, that was like kind of it. It's like, oh, we're all tied to this one thing, right? Mm-hmm. But the political shit that happens in our community has like broken our community before I even got here. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like there's been, and a lot of it is a lot of people aren't getting the information from the people that they are sure they're mad at. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of back talk. There's a lot of like, I don't know. I don't know how many people watching this think that I'm an absolute jerk from recent stuff that happened on Facebook, like this mean girl bullshit that went on. But I will meet people and they'll tell me, oh, I have a crazy story about being in the troubled teen industry. I've been wanting to tell it for a really long time and this is really hard. And I'm like, know that you have a home now. This is your documentary too. This story is too big and too hard for me to tell alone. Thank you for telling me that you know that you need help because I need help too. So that's kind of what I've just been mostly fielding people, you know, that are like, oh, I have this, this, and this to tell you. I'm like, thank you. You know, like, I'm not an elitist celebrity famous person. If you message me, I will write you back. You know what I mean? Like, you know, maybe it'll take a day or two, but it's like, man, there's been so much bullshit. There's been so much high school bullshit going on in the community of like who's right and cancel. There's so much cancel culture just among us. And so, and I'm not saying, and I'm not saying I'm innocent in any of this. But yeah. So when you answered, I just want, you know, like, I met you, you know, a year and a half ago, and you put an idea in my head that this is a big story to tell, and it's just gotten, you know, it's just steamrolled. It's just like very, very big story. I want to represent as many schools as I can and tell the story of the psychological torture that they went through. I think that the key to us getting over what we went through is, it's not exposure therapy, but it's knowing what it was. Like, a lot of us barely even remember what we went through because it was so crazy that to remember it is insanity. And so, like, you know, I don't even know, like, do you talk to people? Are they able to get therapy for this? Like, have you found anybody, like, is like, oh, I found a therapist that deals with this and it worked?
There's a few of them, but it's not very, very often.
Yeah.
But the thing about people not wanting to hear staff stories, don't you want to know what they know?
That's the biggest thing, man. Like, I don't know if you saw one of my recent posts, but I'm friends with the vice principal, basically, of CEDU, and he moved in Paris Hilton twice. And he's like, oh, you know, it's like, I can't wait to tell you about when I moved in Paris Hilton. And I'm like, and no, you know, everyone was like, wow. And I'm like, do you see any hate messages right now? Do you see anybody saying, oh, you're part of the problem? It's like, all of a sudden, everyone respects what you have to say now. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and it's, you know, yeah, it's because of the celebrity and like, I'm really mad at her. But it's, you know, like, those stories are valid. And it's, you know, even if they have crazy shit to say, like, you know, we're all friends with Trumpers. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm sure all of us have a friend that's a Trumper if you're not, or you know, whatever. Like, just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean they're a fucking horrible person that doesn't need to be thought about. You know what I mean? Like, when if you talk to, there are people that I think are legitimately batshit crazy that are survivors that I love. And when I ask them why they think about something, I will ask them why until I understand why they think that way. And that doesn't mean that I agree. It just means that I've come to understand where their brain got to so that they're like that. And that came from me making the documentary. And it's, you know, done a lot in my life to just, you know, ask somebody why they think that way. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but it means that you can, oh, I understand why you think that way. You know.
But I also see both sides to it, because you can also have a staff member come on and completely bullshit every single answer and paint a story where they are the superhero.
Oh, that would never happen. Oh,
and then, but there are people that try and just come on, because there are some people, I've interviewed a few staff members, so I know, that have come on here, not necessarily lied, but tried to make it seem like they maybe didn't do as much as they did.
Yeah.
And try and sugarcoat maybe a little bit, and just to absolve themselves of guilt. You know,
right.
Not saying that directly happened with anybody that I interviewed, but I just, like, it does happen. So there is that. I see both sides of it, because people don't want them to be able to just absolve themselves of all guilt and then not take accountability for anything at the same time.
No, it wasn't. And that's what's hold on one second. Let me grab something. And I know CEDU was different. Even just my campus was very different from all the other ones the farther I go into this. But it's like the two staff that interviews that I did, like, I'll tell you, like the one that was the best one, he was our physics teacher. He was the physics teacher for CEDU. And when I told people, I was like, oh, I'm going to interview our physics teacher, people freaked the fuck out. Like, oh my God, tell John LV he was the best guy ever. I love physics because of him. I kept in touch with him for 20 years because I understand guitar repair and building because he was so good at physics. And when I interviewed him, he told me that he was hired at CEDU to be a psychiatrist and a therapist, but that he had taken a seminar on this, like the CEDU way of, you know, he had heard that there was a new way of, you know, helping kids and that it was this magic thing, you know, so he went to this place to learn that psychiatry or, you know, that, you know, philosophy. And they were like, oh, you're going to be a teacher. Here's educational catalogs. What would you like to teach? He's like, oh, I've always been interested in physics. And he became the greatest physics teacher for like 4 years. And he quit because they didn't pay him very much. And over the years, he, you know, he would think about, you know, what happened. He, you know, he saw online that there was bad stuff that happened. And then when I, you know, was like, hey, after I talked to you, I was like, I want to do a documentary about CEDU. If, you know, I might have something if I have somebody like that, like you, that would talk to me. And he was like, you know, would you tell me how you ended up working there? You know, and he was like, when he said yes, I knew I had a documentary. Because I had seen him fake a lot of stuff there. Like we had to do this thing called work where we had to scream at the floor and cry. And he had to do it once and he faked the whole thing like an actor. And it was bad too. Like I wanted to applaud him afterwards. And so like
he looked like he was looking like he was faking it, right?
No, he was like, we had to force emotions, right? I'm sure, you know, like we had to pretend that we were upset about stuff. And so he did that. Like he, you know, screamed at the floor about something, but I could tell it was an act. I could tell he wasn't really upset and it was just his job, you know? So like even I was talking to somebody who went to CEDU and she was telling me a story about that there was a staff that they all loved. And he had picked a note out of his pocket one day and shown it to my friend, right? And it was a note that a staff had given him to keep in his pocket. And it said, when you open it up, it says, be meaner. So a staff that was too liked was told by other staff to stop being so nice and to start being meaner.
Yep.
So like, when it's your job to be an asshole, I know it means you're still an asshole, but it's so complicated, Max. It's like, we were the model home. And of course the model home is going to be the one that's falling, that looks like, you know, it's all run down and falling apart in, you know, in the guts, you know what I mean? Because it's just for show one. But like, when I'm making this documentary, I'm using the CEDU knowledge to get through how hard it is. And that's like your tools, man, you don't think about them positively. Like, how often do you think about, well, you probably do think about what you fear you create all the time, right?
Yeah, well, not all the time, but definitely enough.
Like subconsciously, it's like a part of the just what your brain, you know.
Yeah. How it's programmed in there, yeah.
Yeah. But see, like our programming was on the par of like Scientology level shit. Do you know what I mean? Like when we left, if you graduated CEDU in like the 80s and 90s, like early 90s, like mid, you know, anywhere from after my peer group is bad.
They would want to keep tabs on you, right?
Well, no, look.
They'd keep in touch with you, right?
Yeah, they did. They at my campus, they really encouraged alumni coming back to visit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like big time. And like we were treated like staff. And we were even better than that. Like when I visited that weekend, I was Paris Hilton's big sister. I was treated above the staff that didn't know me from my time being there.
Because you graduated.
They were new staff, because they were considered new staff.
Yeah, because you graduated, right?
Right. So because they were new staff and they hadn't been through everything. I had graduated. Therefore, I was helping train staff while I was an alumni.
You had seniority over staff.
Yeah. So it's like that's there's this survivor story that you need to hear so bad. he was a staff member that I made friends with just right when the program came out, and he was a student at one, I forget which school it was. When he was an older student, the staff were like, okay, everybody write, down all the things that you did bad, and we're not going to give you consequences for, you're just going to feel better. So everyone, copped out to a bunch of shit, and they gave the list to him, and he went to turn it in, and they're like, okay, where's your list? And he's like, oh, I didn't do anything. The staff went around and turned around to everybody, and they said, okay, all of you now are fucked. Like, you're not going to graduate. You're going down. And they made that guy basically training staff. They moved him to start a Spring Creek something school. I can't remember the last name, but I knew Spring Creek from talking to you. They moved him to start a new Spring Creek something school. And they made him basically like the head of he ran the school. He trained staff. He stayed there, I think, a couple years after his 18th birthday, while his parents were still paying tuition. After he graduated, he was out for maybe a year, and during that time, he only made $5,000 with the 5 calls that when parents would call him, and he would recommend the place. So when he was offered a job, he took it because he was living like shit, and that was the last time that he had any dignities when he was pretty much, a junior staff there. He worked there for a long time. He quit. And the last 10 years, I guess, he's just been apologizing to people, to the point where you might even be friends with him and not even know it. Because he is fully a survivor. His story was one of the most important stories I've heard since I'm making the documentary, but people might not have even heard it because he was staff, and it was that he was in a group and somebody saw his picture and they're like, oh, I remember you. And like, when was that picture? And he's like, oh, that was taken when I was staff. And then I messaged him, like, okay, you got to tell me how that happens. So yeah, the cult aspect of what happens, and that people will graduate and then go back to work there, is one of the biggest problems with it.
Yeah, definitely. How far along are you on the documentary?
What has this been like for you? How many freaking interviews have you done? Like, how many people have called you? Like,
I've done like 120 something interviews, but I haven't been called by anybody. What do you mean? Who called by who?
Like, I mean, other, like other people that want to be interviewed. Like, so a friend of mine just messaged me that went to like the high school I was supposed to go to. He's like, from my hometown. He's like, I was listening to a podcast and I realized that the person I was listening to was you. And it was like, I remember you disappearing in middle school. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's like, I'm like, it has to have been yours because I've only done your podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fascinating. But he went to a place in California, some Benchmark, I think is where he went. But I was like, that's fascinating. That's just like, he was randomly just looking at, like, he was just randomly listening and he realized he knew me, So that's like a big deal, I feel like, for you.
Yeah, it happens. We got a big push after the documentary. Hopefully with this other documentary coming out, it'll create a spike again where people are wanting to do interviews because it's starting to slow down again. But I had like 3-month period where I was just every single day I was doing interviews. So
how do you handle it, dude? How do you handle it?
I ask myself that every day. I don't know.
Like
a lot of fucking weed. A lot of weed.
Because you listen to when you interview people, you're not just zoning out, like, you're taking in everything. And like, I like, people are like, oh, like Jordan, I'm like, that's my boy. I'm like, I love him. I'm like, we are going to figure out a way to make it so that one day you are totally comfortable and all of this will have been worth something, because like, you allow people's pain to be recognized as real, and like having just the list of all the people, these are all heavy hitters in our fucking community, you know what I mean? Like you're almost like not anybody until you've been on your fucking podcast. Like, oh, you haven't been on Lucy Person? Yeah, you got to get on there before I talk to you. Like, you're not anybody until we've been on your show.
I think I'm one of the longest running podcasts.
Oh, really?
Or one of the ones with the most episodes. I don't know. I would have to look into it, but
yeah,
I think I'm getting there to a point where I don't know if there's a lot of podcasts that address the T.T.I, but they're not a lot of them actually stay and continue doing, or they'll do it only in certain parts of the year. They'll do it in certain parts of the year. They'll be like, okay, we'll do it in like in fall, and then we're not doing it for the rest of the, which I understand because it's heavy material, but at the same time. But then who if not me, who else is gonna do this work?
That's the whole thing, is that like, I'm trying to think of how to censor what I'm saying so I don't get in trouble. When I've been like even just talking to, when I'm making the documentary and I'm talking to professional people and I'm trying to explain what I'm trying to make. Or like my director will be like, okay, you have all this footage. Now you have to cut a sizzle reel from your footage. I'm like, how do you think that my brain will wrap around telling a story that is, a couple minutes long out of hundreds of like 100 hours of footage? Or like, it's just, I don't even know what story is edible by other people yet, like, or what they could comprehend. Like, have you like?
You want something more traumatic. Because you definitely want, and that's because it'll get people's attention. Not that you want to like, highlight it for any specific reason. It's just because that gets people's attention. The more traumatic or like messed up the thing is, the more it'll get people's attention. The more it'll get people talking.
Well, I don't think.
Also, you want. I
mean, we all know that's like that comes in. We got that. We got plenty of that. You know what I mean? Like, but the thing that. Oh God, hold on, let me turn off that washer. It's gonna make a ton of noise. Hold on 1 second. Oh, for Christ's sake. I can't turn it off. All right, sorry. One thing that my friend said, she was only able to watch one episode of the program. And I was like, did you watch the program? She's like, I could watch one episode. I'm like, really? And I'm like, why? And she's like, that's a hard watch. Like, that's a very hard watch. Like,
people that haven't went to schools have a hard time watching even the trailer.
Yes. Like, I had originally thought that it was too triggering for us to watch. Do you know what I mean? Like, or not necessarily me, but like you, or, that it would be too triggering for you to watch. But like, but that for me, it was awesome because I felt slightly represented, but I also felt horrible because I feel responsible. Because when I saw that towel in the second episode wrapped in duct tape, I know where that came from. Like, that came from the I Want to Live and the Friday Night the Fights. Oh, I'm like, what can I say that I'm not going to get in trouble for? I'm talking about the connections and things I'm doing with the documentary. There's something about we were all silenced, right? Like, we were kids and we weren't allowed to talk about it to the point where we're still having a time talking about it now.
Yeah.
There's something about what's going on in our community that because we are like that, because we have that insecurity even about keeping quiet or whatever, that then the stuff, like the political bullshit that's going on, I feel like it's so much worse. Because all I did was say on the internet that I felt mean girled, and every guy too, messaged me and said, thank you for saying that. Like, now I know that you're doing this for good reasons, and they're just giving me their documentaries basically. Like, and it's not that I want, I'm so excited because I just stole all this information. It's like, I'm not on a deadline. This is an independent documentary. I want to make sure that I feel that as many voices that want to be a part of this are a part of this, because that is the only way that I think it's going to get done. And that's the best way for this to get done. And even in the way, I'm a fucking lifelong singer-songwriter. I'm making a movie. You don't think I would be like, oh, I'll just put my own songs throughout the entire thing? That would be such bullshit, selfish shit for me to do. And I'm like, I know that you're a musician. And when I finally heard your music, I was like, oh my God, thank God, Jordan's really good. I'm like, Jordan gets to be like some of the soundtrack. But I'm like, all of you, like so many survivors are artistic or creative. And I'm like, I want to utilize as much as of everybody's, you know, artistic skills so that they feel represented. And like when they're like, you know, some pivotal moment is in their song that they wrote is in the background. That is a pride that I know that like might save a life. That might, you know what I mean? But that also might make somebody like, that might be somebody's crowning achievement in their entire existence. And like, I want to give that to as many fucking people as I possibly can before this movie is done. Because it's when 20 years ago, the Surviving CEDU documentary came out on YouTube, and it was by this guy named Liam. And I contacted him and I said, you know, I have a really sad story about being there because my mom died after I was at CEDU for a month, and I had to go to her funeral and pretend my family and friends didn't exist. So when he's like, okay, you do need to be in my documentary because that is a crazy story. And, you know, when he did film me, that interview never became part of it, but like, to know that I was important, that my story was important for him to tell the bigger story, that meant a lot to me. And so when I knew I was going to make a documentary, you know, and this was 20 years later, and Liam has died since then, like, this is in his name. Like, this is, you know, I want to continue what he was doing. But, yeah, I want to be the Mother Love Bone documentaries. I want to be like the one that like, okay, you want to make a doc? I got a lot of interviews. I got a lot of info. Let's share this together. Like, there's no reason that like we can't all be fighting together for one thing that like, you know, like we should be sharing information. We should be like helping each other. Like Sika is fucking toxic. And nobody is reading the finalized version of the fucking bill. I didn't for even a long time, man. Like, and I still see people like supporting Sika, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's not even that Paris has used us to stay relevant. I think that she's the enemy. I think that she is farther institutionalizing child abuse, and she's doing it in the foster care system. The Sika bill has to do with like the foster and like stuff. It has nothing to do with most of the troubled teen industry.
Well, she might not have any idea that she's even part of something like that, though.
That's the thing. That's what a lot of people say. A lot of people are like, well, she might not know any better.
I don't think she would knowingly do. I don't think that she would knowingly do some shit like that. I personally don't. I don't think she could keep her mouth shut about that. If she was participating in something like that, I don't think she could keep her mouth shut about it. I think that she would eventually tell somebody.
She kind of did, though. I'll tell you about it. Oh yeah, it's what was crazy about, you know, I don't know if you watch any of my DC videos, man, but it was like, we got the secret word. It's like, oh, Paris wants a bunch of us to come to DC to be a part of her bill, right? So it's like, oh, okay, I live close to DC. It was a driving distance, you know? So I was like, I'll be there. While I was driving to DC, I'm driving. I need my phone to get to DC. I see a special video message from Paris, right? I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't need to watch it. I'm already on my way to see you, bitch. Whatever. So I get to to DC to Senate, like right at the closing bell. Like we just walk in when everybody else is. I walk into the restroom with freaking half the cast and crew that made the program. I'm not worthy to one of the girls, the girl that had got sent from Casa by the Sea to Ivy Ridge. I met her in the bathroom. I met like a bunch of them. All fantastic, wonderful human beings, wonderful gods to me. But like, after all this shit happened, this really sketchy stuff happened, I was like, so is the princess coming to her party? Why hasn't anyone saying, like, where is Paris coming tomorrow? Because this was only the first day. And they're like, oh, you didn't watch the video. And I was like, what video? Whatever. I just wasn't paying attention. So I'm like, what video? I didn't watch this video until 2:00 in the morning after I'd already made my sign for the press conference. And I fucking see this, I can't make it to be with my survivor family, but I love you and you're all badasses. And I text all of her people, all of her fucking, assistants, what the fuck were you trying to pull? Survivors have, because we had thought that video message was recycled from her doing this before. And I asked her people, I was like, people have seen this video message before. I'm like, I'm not a fucking moron. You know that I did not come here for a fucking selfie with Paris. I want to apologize to her because I'm afraid that she thinks that she doesn't like me. I told her for a week to stay at CEDU. And they were like, oh, she recorded that message on Sunday night for this community only. But we received it Tuesday when we were on our way to DC. So that's when I just started telling everybody. And I was really scared. Like, I was like, what's going to happen if I start saying fuck Paris Hilton? Like, what's going to happen, right? Like, some stuff happened, but not, like, a lot of good stuff has happened because everyone that already knew what she was about is like, thank you. All right, you got it now. Like, it's not just that she, maybe did something a couple years ago and she's still just like reposting the same outfit from 2 years ago over and over again. It's not just, I don't think it's just that bad, because when she, she's like, oh, be a part of something special in DC with her. And like, we need you to sign or, release forms so that we can film you. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then we spend our own money and ask our wives and husbands and family to like support us when we're going to do something to validate what we went through. And then she doesn't show up. That's fucking abusive on a crazy level. And it killed me that nobody said anything. It's like, oh, and I messaged somebody privately, and what was funny, Jordan, is that me and my friend, we thought this person looked just like you. We were like, we saw somebody in this meeting. We're like, was that Jordan? He's like, is Lucifer here? I was like, no, that's not my boy. But like, I messaged this person and I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, what is Paris Hilton doing? And they were like, oh, Paris uses us. Like, it's well known. Like, I'm sorry that, you had to find out this way, but like, no. Like, it, like, she uses us to be relevant. And I was like, can I tell everybody? And he was like, yeah, go ahead. Like,
wait, who told you this?
Somebody that had dealt with Paris before. Somebody that had been to DC and dealt with a situation with Paris before.
Like, where were you when they told you this?
In DC. I was in Washington, DC.
Like, where though?
At a freaking an Airbnb that I had to rent on my own dime. This was just like a couple weeks ago. And then, Jordan, we all went home and then a couple days ago, on like a week ago, she puts it out on WhatsApp again to the DC trip. Oh, Paris is coming this Wednesday now. Nobody could afford to even go. Like, nobody, it was like, well, you're too bad. Like, nobody could even afford to go the second time.
Do we know why she didn't show the first time?
She was promoting an album. It wasn't like there was a family emergency. It was like, if we looked what she was doing that day, she was promoting an album, and there was something else that like happened that I don't, I'll tell you about. But like, there's a lot of things that we have to start thinking that like I didn't think about when I was getting to this. It's like, and you said it when like the program came out, you're like, make sure that somebody's videotaping the entire documentary series, because this could go off of Netflix. You've no idea how much money these people have, And I was like, what is Jordan talking about, man? They're not that big. I was being fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were totally right.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's even still up.
Did you hear about the lawsuit?
Yeah, he's gonna lose that.
Well,
especially if he goes to discovery in court, does he not realize discovery means that we're gonna know everything about him?
Yeah, not even
everything.
That. It's like, do you know how many people are gonna show up to that fucking courthouse? You thought there was a mob when like Michael Jackson was in court, or like OJ? Jesus Christ, they're not gonna be able to you're not gonna be able to rent a hotel room till the next state.
Yeah, it's gonna be insane. I honestly, I hope that they push it forward and just like take it to court. I really hope that they just take it all the way to court.
Well, because it's gonna depend on what I think it's gonna depend on what Netflix wants to do it. Because if Netflix is most likely, if you think about it, like, oh, just give the guy a couple mil, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Don't let him do that, because that's what he's gonna try and do. He's gonna try and settle it. He's gonna try and settle it outside of, with an undisclosed amount.
Right.
That's exactly what he's going to do. At least I think he's going to try and.
And he most likely will be able to do that because Netflix.
And then with that, he's going to have an NDA or some set of paperwork where he's like, you cannot disclose anything about me or any of these schools. And it's going to. I think he'll do something or try to do something like that.
Yeah.
But if it goes all the way to court, he's screwed.
Oh yeah. But the whole thing is that even if he would have to stay where he is though, right? Because it's like nobody can find him, right? Isn't that the whole thing?
During discovery, everything will be known about him.
Yeah.
Everything, where he lives, like everything. Like anything he's been tied to in the past, like if he ever changed his name, what his actual name is it Narvin, Marvin? What is it?
Yeah.
Because people say it's Marvin, people say it's Narvin. Like, what is his actual name? We're gonna learn a lot from discovery if it goes all the way to court.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So.
It's crazy. Man. Did you watch the Synanon fix?
Yeah, I watched a few episodes of it. I didn't watch all of it, but
yeah. Did you find it close to what you went through at all?
No, that was more that was like the brainchild of all of this, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or that we know of. I think recently, do some findings recently that it may have started even earlier in like the late 60s, early 70s, maybe even late 50s.
Yeah.
Even before synanon.
Yeah.
I'm not really going to say publicly what I think because there's powerful people that are
tied to
it. But and I don't want them to know what I have in my hand. So just know that I think it goes deeper. I think it started like I think it started as not schools and not like I think I'm not even really going to say anything. I just think it has to do with trafficking. That's all I'm going to say. It's definitely trafficking, and it's been going on for a long time. Longer than any of us probably think it has.
Thank you.
And there's not going to be any trail to tie these things together. It's going to be people that are going to see similarities like I just have seen recently.
Yeah.
And like, no, there's too many similarities and specific keywords that people say like that have carried on from then till now and just little things that stick out. And you'd have to know what you're looking for to like actually pin them together.
I know.
So
I know exactly what you're talking about. And like the bitches that I've been picking up to work with in my documentary, they'll tell me those things, right? And they're like, okay, so this is what you're going to look for. And they'll just tell me like a couple things. And then they let me free in the world. And then I have to come back and be like, oh my God. It's like,
yeah.
It's like, because there's a difference between somebody saying, oh, I'm not even saying the words I'm thinking, whatever, saying these words. But when somebody's like, okay, these are the things that you look for when you're looking for this cult shit, and you're like, oh, it's right in front of your fucking face. It's like, oh, like when it's like right in front of your face, I have people on my team that that are ready to die for this cause. Like, I have people on my team that are like afraid of what I will tell you right now because they think it might make it so they'll die, like, because this is like, man, I sat in front of a Starbucks when I was in DC, I sat next to a black homeless guy because I felt safe. So I knew he was a freaking Mormon. And I just sat next to this guy and I was like, hey, I'm making a documentary. And I'm like, when you were young, do you remember any kids getting sent away? Like, did you ever get sent away to to like a bad kid's school, And he goes, no, I wasn't. That's horrible. But my daughter was. He goes, my daughter, we figure out after a little while that his mom has custody of his daughter and that she's 10 and she was 1 mile away in a T.T.I. school. She was in a uniform. We tried to play it off like we were his like caseworkers, and we talked to his mom like, oh, we just want to send her some clothes, whatever, to find out where she was, and like we couldn't figure it out. Like, there's no reason for a 10-year-old to be in a T.T.I. school. There's no reason for a 10-year-old to be in a boarding school. Yeah, like.
Also, like, I think that the whole like Indian boarding school thing back in the day, I think that's also part of this.
That's
like, what did they do? What did they do in those boarding schools? They would like consequence you for speaking your own language and going according to your own culture, and they would consequence you for that. And then they'd be like, you have to like abide by this religion, you have to talk this way, and then you'll be released.
Yeah,
that's the same kind of like power and control dynamic that a lot of these schools have. So I think that, like, how long has this really been going on? Like, I think none of us really know how long this is really, like, this might have gone back to antiquity, like not antiquity, but like pretty fucking far back.
Yeah.
Pretty fucking far back.
Well, like,
and it's just evolved.
It's what an sanitarium is. It's what it's what a mental hospital is, like, man, when I was in the fucking loony bin in October, like I mean, it was the second worst experience of my life besides getting sent to a freaking CEDU for 2.5 years. But like, I look at it as I got to go to the hospital because I told you, did I tell you about that yet? I don't think I did.
Because you couldn't make it to Survivor Prom. That's why you.
Yeah.
Prom,
so so yeah, we haven't talked since we were supposed to hang at Survivor Prom. Shit. So when I got sent to that hospital, there's a new guy that like, once when you're in a hospital, you like kind of make friends with, the people in your ward or whatever. And a new kid came in and he was like 19 and he was unbearable to deal with. Like, he wanted to talk to everybody, but he was like stepping on people, going to people's rooms, and everyone was trying to avoid him. And he was looking at a piece of welding in something and he's like talking about welding. And I'm like, oh, you know about welding? He's like, I know 8 professional ways of welding. I'm like, I'm making a guitar repair school. I need a welding expert. So I wrote down his name and number and I said, welding expert. He's like, oh, that's so cool. And we started talking and I'm like, yeah, I'm making a documentary about, this bad kids school I went to. And he's like, I got sent to 2 Outward Bound programs. And I'm like, wait a minute, did they make you feel shit? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, holy shit. So then this is what happened. So I was like, okay, you're my documentary. I have his name. I haven't called him, but I have his name and number. A nurse came in, an incoming nurse came in. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to interview this guy for my documentary, but none of you guys believe I'm making, right? And I'm like, he went to Outward Bound. And she goes, I went to Outward Bound. It got me sober and it saved my life. And I go, how long did you go for? And she said 28 days. And I said, that's the key. You're a part of the problem. Because there are the handful of people that do go through, maybe the ones with good intentions, the ones that are normal amount of time, that, maybe don't have monsters working there. Those ones give the testimonials that it saved their fucking life. And that's it. So it can't be everybody else says, oh, they're just crazy. Anyone that has a bad experience, it doesn't matter because it saved my life. So if we don't talk about those people, then we can't debunk that we were all experiments that started a long time ago and that this can't go on. That it's either that there has to be a stopping of this culture of you send your kids to be fixed, it's somebody else's problem, or when you do send your kids away, they have a camera on them at all times in the way that cops do. So there's accountability for what happens to them. or they're making sure that they can call their parent at any fucking time of the day they want to. There's no reason why not to, you know, like or if you send your kid to a troubled teen school, there should be things that happen. And I'm sure that Jessica Gitman talked to you about this, is that it should raise a red flag on the parents, first of all, and make sure that they're not fucking crazy in the first place, because most of them were sending their kids away because they were hurting the kid in the first place in some way. And that make sure the kid definitely needs it. And that, what was the third thing? There's a third, something else that she was saying. But then, you know, the obvious like rules on how it is. But a parent that thinks that like a stranger would be better at raising their kid when they can't do it, that's like the fucking definition of insane. Like, why would anybody think that? And, you know, it's, yeah. And it's the reasons that like are just insane. Like, most of the people I talk to would be like, yeah, I got something for nothing. And then, but then afterwards, I did everything. You know what I mean? It's like most of the people didn't get sent for much, but they sure did make sure they had fucking fun afterwards.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. Yeah, that's a good percentage of people that happened to. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many schools do you think are still current? Like
I have no idea.
Like, we don't even talk about it, do we? Because it's like,
I think there might be a number on unsilenced.org where they might have a list, but I don't think that it's a full list. I don't think we have state by state a list of every single school in each state. I'd be very curious to know what's in Washington, what's in like Michigan.
I mean, I live in Connecticut, man. I looked at one and was like, okay, we're not looking at Connecticut. We're not looking at Connecticut, just so you know. Internet, we're not looking at Connecticut. we are an old moneyed state. Our T.T.I. shit is fucking terrifying. Like, I thought that this was like just church stuff or like stupidity, like the W.W.A.S.P stuff is just obvious stupidity and incompetence. You know what I mean? But it's the church shit that's fucking terrifying, man. Like, that shit's fucking. It's like when they have right on their side because it's the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, that's the terrifying shit.
Yeah. I feel like it starts going really far back is with the religious kind of schools. I think it started with the religious schools, and the religious schools branched off into like something like synanon, and then synanon branched off into the T.T.I. and W.W.A.S.P and stuff like that, something like that. But I think it started with the religious schools because religion has gone back to antiquity pretty much. And
yeah.
How long have they been having these schools where they're trying to just like essentially convert you to their ways and everything? You're born in sin and all of this complete bullshit that you teach a child, and then you consequence them, and then you send them to these schools where they have to worship somebody that is, if you really look at it, is the one inflicting pain, because literally they're doing this in the name of God, like, because it's the right thing to do, and you're dirty.
Yeah,
you're
I know.
in sin, and you're just dirty because you have sinned. You need to cleanse yourself, and the only way to do that is whatever the fuck happened, you know?
Right.
It can be anything. They can be like, oh, I need to cleanse you so you get raped, you know? I'm cleansing you with the Holy Spirit, with my penis. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. What the fuck, dude? Like, where is the love in that? Where the fuck is the love in any of this? Like, if you're claiming to be like a religious, like, where the heart of it is like love everybody like you would love your brother. Like, so where the fuck is the love in all this?
I know.
There's absolutely no love. There's no love. In my opinion, there's no love.
There's even people on my team that like are still religious. They're like, I know you don't believe in God, because everyone knows I'm atheist, but they're like, I know you don't believe in God, but like, don't you believe that like this happened for a reason or this happened? I'm like, I believe that if your brain is open and you go into a room and you see somebody that looks attractive for some weird reason, talk to them. You exchange information with that person because there's a reason they look attractive. There's a reason. When you walk into a room and you're drawn to one person, there's a fucking reason for it. And that's my religion. I don't think that it has anything to do with some guy with a fucking beard in the sky who says that you're naughty for liking sex or anything. Like, that's not real. But it's scary because, especially what's going on with all the laws of the 10 Commandments being fucking schools, man. Like, it's like
separation of church and state. How fucking hard is it?
It's like, you know, and
like
it's even I saw a rebuttal, like I saw John Oliver talk about it, and he was like, they showed a woman, somebody was like, so don't you think this is like, you know, hurtful for Jewish kids or kids that aren't, you know, aren't Christian? And she's like, well, no, well, I suppose that they can just turn their head. And it was like, it's just, yeah, it's so disgusting. Like, but like, because did you see Paris Hilton on Wednesday on TV?
No.
The other people that were talking right next to her were from the fucking church.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
What is she doing with them? Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, but, yeah, you know. Exactly. People, what was she doing?
I mean, the church has some of the most money in the entire world, so I mean,
yep,
they can buy whatever, you know. I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy to buy.
Just comes in all the time. It's
when you start throwing like several $1 billion to buy somebody, it's eventually they're gonna crack. After you say the right number, they're gonna crack, and they're gonna be like, okay, yep, I'll do what you want. And people are just disgusting like that. They're just greedy, fucking disgusting. Not everybody. There's good people in the world, but there's a lot of greedy, disgusting, filthy people in the world.
Yeah.
That I think need a reality check. And I think that there maybe even should be a cap on how much money you can, like, yeah, okay, maybe like after you make a couple $1 billion, that's definitely, you're set. Your family is set for the next like several generations. Like, when is it ever enough? Like,
yeah.
It's just never enough for these people. Yeah. Never, like, and what's it all for? So they can get rich. So people can abuse children and just get rich off of it. Yeah. And it's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. And that's why we do what we do. And yeah, so.
But yeah, man, like, I make sure all the professional people that I'm talking about with making this documentary, I'm like, okay, your homework is to just go to the Straight Outta BS podcast and just start watching. And I'm like, this is where the rabbit hole is. You know what I mean? I'm like, I feel like this podcast, like in fucking, you know, if we go into the future someday, this is going to be an archive that, you know, the Smithsonian might have someday. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that what you do is important on that level. And I'm not saying that to fucking pat you on the back or try to give you ego boost or make you feel better. I truly believe that what you're doing and like what you started it might actually do something. But it was the way that you did it too. Like, you let people talk. You let people fucking tell the world what happened to them, and you just listened and you believed them. And nobody else had done that before to these people before. Nobody else had ever, you know, felt like they could do that before. And you're a hero on a level that I hope someday I will be able to represent in my documentary. Yeah, it's gonna take a while because I really want to make sure that everybody that needs to be a part of it can be a part of it, and that in the process of making it, I don't want the end to be like, oh, we're just like, it's got to have some sort of good, like, positive part so that people don't feel like shit after they've watched it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to say that we have done something to make some sort of change in the end of it. And it might be that we start our own bill. You know, that's not impossible. People have done it before. Yeah. So, you know, I think that we pretty much, me and my team just decided today that we want to try to do something like that, because if we look at all the other parties, we can't really find anybody that we really trust to, you know, just politically that we'd be like, this is really what we want, because Sika is fucked. Sika is totally fucked. Yeah, and everyone else is tired. A lot of people are fucking like a lot of, like, I'll talk to people that have, you know, been working, and they're like, yeah, my activism side of working with this shit is over, you know, and I just try to learn from them, you know, as much as I can, you know, so that, you know, I just pretty much ask them to be advisors so that I don't make any mistakes. And so, but there's so much bullshit of people not talking to each other, man. And I think that it's the part of us from, you know, that spilled over from us being used to not talking about stuff. So, like, I didn't talk publicly. I wasn't vlogging for months because my people, my documentary people were like, you gotta stop it. Just stop it. You're causing drama. But it was like, when I called out Paris's fucking bullshit, all the best people found me. All the best people found me. And that's all I'm going to say. All the best people found me as soon as I did that, because, yeah, it was the best. It was the best career move ever. But it was like, I only felt like I could do that because I wasn't, and that's not, it's not horrible to say that, like, people were there so that they could have a celebrity recognize their pain is matching theirs. That's not a horrible thing to have wanted, you know? But it was like, I really didn't give a shit about that. I really want to say sorry. I really wanted to say sorry to her. I really wanted to say sorry for, like, hey, I'm sorry for that week where I sat down with you for a whole week and said, just give in to CEDU. It's not so bad if you just let it happen. You're not going to get out. Just give in, or else it's going to be way worse. And that's all. And I honestly feel guilt about it. It's not about the selfie. I might have even been able to not make my documentary anymore if I had to have a private moment with her in DC where I got to apologize. Seriously, I might have. But because she, you know, treated us like we were fucking fangirls, it was horrible. I'll stop talking about it.
Oh, good.
But yeah, nobody, like, I've tried to talk to, like, there's a couple of podcasters, like, on YouTube, like, I've tried to, like, reach out to, there's a guy named, I think his name is Aaron, who was in Lee Remini's Scientology show, and he's a podcaster that talks about Scientology stuff. He had on somebody that talked about est. And something that's very interesting about me, I don't know if you remember, is that my parents met in an est seminar because my mom called out the leader during a forum for sleeping with her, and because she didn't know that he was married. And she was like, oh, you're supposed to be responsible for your actions. We just had sex, but you're married. And so my dad then married my mother, and I was born. So, but so Aaron had somebody that was talking about est pretty publicly and had written a book about it. And I've been emailing, like, you know, podcasts that will talk about cult stuff or whatever. And I just haven't seen any responses, but I'm sure they get, you know, tons of emails.
Yeah. But I also think sometimes it's more than that. I feel like people just don't want to talk about that. Because people just don't, like, it's just such a fucked up topic when they start looking into it that they don't want to expose their audience to that. Which I understand I understand the base of that, the base, like, thought of that, but it's really fucking retarded. Wouldn't you want people to know about this?
Yeah, no, but
like, you're repressing information at that point.
Like,
deciding what information gets out.
Yeah, but no, this shit makes me very unfucking comfortable, man. I mean, like, for a couple of different reasons and on a couple of levels. Like, I don't know, like, I've always been weird and I've always told people about CEDU, but it was also because we were the Hollywood one. Like, on my fucking, you know, I knew a bunch of famous people's kids there. So, like, telling people that part of me was an easy thing, and that was kind of the only thing I could explain. So I was like, yeah, I went to like, you know, a reform school, a bunch of rich, famous people's kids. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I'm weird. Like, that's why I can't hear the song Imagine by John Lennon. And that's why, you know, or whatever. So like, since I've been making that, like people, you know, message me and they're like, yeah, I remember you saying that, or like, oh yeah, that, or, you know, so it's like, it's always been a part of my life. I'm sure it's made some people uncomfortable, but I try to talk to like people that I care about. I'm like, hey, I know this is weird, but this is, you know, um, but I know that I know that a lot of us like will get backlash from like our normal friends, right? Like we'll post something and they'll be like, what the fuck, man? Like that's so weird or whatever. And that's hard for us. Like that's like, because it's like we feel super judged and we feel like, you know, uncool or whatever. And so like a lot of the times when I post, like if I notice that somebody will post and they're not for my T.T.I stuff, I thank the fuck out of them. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for seeing us. Like, I know this is weird. I know this is uncomfortable. Um, and I do a lot of private messaging with like my friends of mine to tell them about that stuff too, because it's like, you know, like I've been a musician for my whole fucking life. Like I know a lot of musicians and I do get scared, you know, that like what I'm doing could be considered uncool. Uh, like, you know, like, I don't want to, I'm like, I don't want to, like, for example, Jessica, my girl, she was saved by a singer. Like, this singer saved her life. And my boy plays with this guy, right? And he's like, I don't want to say who he is because he's mega, mega, mega famous. I'll tell you who he is later. But a good friend of mine plays with this guy. And like, I made a video. I was like, yo, could you get us tickets to go see your boy? Like, I'll come out, I'll find, and like, I'll film part of the documentary for it. You know, like, not like meeting, but like, can you just get us tickets? Because tickets are expensive. And he hasn't responded, but he was also on tour with the guy. So I know he didn't see the video yet. So like, you know, I get like, but then oh God, but listen to this, man. So this is gonna make me cry like fuck. So I worked at Guitar Center like 15 years ago with this kid named Mike Nairn. He was 19 and he loved hearing stories about all the bands that I was friends with because they were all his favorite bands. Like my friend is Fred, and he was in the band Taking Back Sunday. I know like a lot. I just know a lot of cool people. So he used to love hearing my stories. I actually even got him to try I tried to get him a tryout with one of my cool friends' bands. He's now the lead guitar player of Panic at the Disco. So what was fucking cool, right, is that when I had to make a TikTok to make my fuck Paris Hilton videos, right? I made a TikTok. He added me as a friend as soon as I fucking made my TikTok. He was like one of my first fucking 5 friends. This motherfucker plays Madison Square Garden lead guitar. Do you know what I mean? And he added me as a friend. The first 5 friends, and it's just because he has my cell phone number. My name isn't. It just says CEDU documentary. So he added me because he saw my fucking number.
Yeah.
And I cried for 45 minutes because it was like when we have our cool friends recognize that like this shit was crazy. Like I have a lot of cool friends that have been like, yo, that's nuts. And when they do, it means a lot. It means a lot. So yeah. One thing that I've been making sure people like, if you're on my team, you can make business cards. Be proud. Like, you know what's cool? Making a fucking movie, bitches. You know, like you know what's gonna be cool is to have it on your fucking resume that you were a part of making a film. You know what I mean? Like making something that like, you know, was a fucking bona fide production. You know what I mean? About something that you and only you could have helped on because you're fucking expert on it.
Yeah.
And so when people have like when my friends, I'm like, tell your mom that you're now an executive producer in a fucking documentary. Like, you know what I mean? Tell them, please. I want to hear about it. Do you know what I mean? Because like that means something to me. I'm proud of them for doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know all the proper names for what all my people are going to be, but there's going to be like 50 executive producers. Because I just like, I just think that, and everyone, like everyone is important. Every single one of us is important. But this all started with you. You're some of the people that are activists in this thing are inaccessible, to say the least. Like some of the people that like our voice, you can't talk to them, but you sit here and listen and you talk and you're active and you're trying to figure out something and you're trying to like see you talked to me because you wanted to know the differences of everything. We're trying to figure out like where everything came from. Yeah. I just, what you're doing is, I don't believe in God, but what you're doing is God's work. Like what you're doing is like some of the most important shit that is being done. And like, I just want you to know that like, I will always make sure that when this documentary is like you're in it, like we're gonna make sure you get paid someday. Like I want to make sure that like you are taken care of, because I wouldn't have known, any of this stuff, and I wouldn't have I wouldn't have been doing this without you. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna be really cool, Jordan. Like it's gonna be really, really cool. Just because of the interest, because like all of a sudden they're interested, you know what I mean? It's like, and I've been doing it anyway. So it was like, it was just a right place, right time thing, man. But like, I want to be Mother Love Bone. I want to make sure that like, if, anyone that's watching, if you have a documentary that you like, I will like, I'm not exclusive. I have not signed a deal with anybody, but I am helping other ones to be made. And like, I think that we should be helping each other. I don't think this should be a thing where we need to be secretive about what we're doing, because I think that this story is so big that the problem that we have is that what starting point, or what part of it are we trying to expose? If we all work together, we might be able to expose everything and explain it in a way that is edible to the public, because a lot of people can't watch the program. A lot of people can't get it past the first episode because it's so sad. It's just so sad.
Yeah, and I think the thing that gets most people is that when they find out that it's involving kids, that's where most people that I've talked to are like, I can't watch this. I can't. I don't. And then some people even go further and they're like, I won't watch this. I will not. I will not watch this. Like, just because it has to do with children. But still, I think you should just power through it and just watch the damn thing. But yeah, I definitely agree with the having it where people will watch it. So
no, but that's hard. I don't know how to. My best guess is to use a friend of mine who's very, very funny to help narrate some shit, or you know what I mean, or like, I don't know, there's got to be some jokes in there, man, or there's got to be some sort of like, I don't know. But then, you can't like make light of the subject. I don't know. I just got to watch enough documentaries so that I can figure out how to make it, not grueling to explain. But
yeah. Do you have any idea when it's going to come out yet?
Oh, not at all. And it's not just one. It's not even just one. I'll tell you right now. It's not even just one right now. It might not even be just 3. Even just when I'm trying to make my specific one, I'm now able to think about what my sizzle reel will be, because I know that other ones that I'm helping are doing things that I don't have to explain. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like, and you know what the thing is that sorry.
You're working on it in parts?
Yeah, like, well, not even like we're, not like, if there's enough of us telling this story, but if we're talking to each other, making sure that like, that like it's in parts, like almost like we are different seasons of the same thing, then people will get it. Do you know what I mean? Maybe people will actually understand what happened. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm like, did I just say anything too bad? No, I didn't say anything too bad. Because the thing is this story applies not to just one people, one group of people.
Yeah.
What I just told you doesn't even apply to just one group of people, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, man. It's like, I'm not a fucking filmmaker. Do you know what I mean? I am not a goddamn filmmaker, and I'm not good at this yet. But like, I was able to talk to enough people and make these connections, and I've worked for so long on it that I just have something huge. And this subject is so crazy. It's like, so anyone that's watching, like this, by the time this comes out, 6 months by the time, if you're still watching this, still find me, because this will, like, I don't think this will be like fucking done even knowing what it's going to be about for another 6 months. Easily. Yeah. So like I don't plan, and I think that we might even be doing things where like we're making short films to like, help get attention so that we get money, like big money for the real one. There's a lot of ways we might be doing it.
Okay.
But I do know that like there's a lot of interest to do this subject, and so that like everyone should know, like there's I feel like there's this thing where everyone's like trying to be like, oh, like like trying to get like money for their pain, but it's like everyone's trying to write books or like whatever, and it's like, that's cool. Like if you're gonna make a documentary, it's not competition, man. Like how many World War whatever documentaries have you seen? How many Auschwitz documentaries are there? And there's still gonna be more. Do you know what I mean? Like there's still always gonna be fucking Vietnam
There's enough for
documentaries.
everybody. There's enough.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, even like, I just posted on my Facebook that like there's another HBO, like Troubled Teen Inc. is coming out. Did you hear about that? Or like Teen Torture Inc. is coming out, and I just posted, and the people are like, "Oh, congratulations!" I'm like, that one's not mine. Like,
Yeah.
like that one's not mine. But it's like, I don't think that this is like we all should be vying for that one spot to tell this story. That's ridiculous. Like the story is very, very extensive. It's very big.
It's not just one person's story to tell either.
It's a genre. Like, do you know what I mean? We are a genre. You know what I mean? Like there's like a section in the video store. It's like, war documentaries. You know what I mean? Like that's basically what we could be someday. Like we are historical fucking, documentaries. We are like, but this is also activism, and this is fucking, like this is also, fucking conspiracy theory level shit too. You know what I mean? So this is an untapped market, basically, and a lot of us, I think, know that. And I just want everyone to I want everyone to stop thinking like they need to, sign book deals or whatever. Like, if we're going to do something, we need to do it together, and it needs to be a group effort. And we need to like be talking to each other and like, yeah. And I'm sorry if there's anybody that's listening to this and they're mad at me because I said something that hurt them. I'm very sorry, but this has been very difficult. Making this documentary has ruined my life a couple of times. And I'm only making it because my school ruined my life a couple of times. So like, I've heard, I'm aware that like there are people who are mad at me, but there's also been a lot of slander of my name. And all I want to say is just talk to me. Call me and ask me, and I'll tell you what happened. Because yeah,
it's always best to go directly to the person who and yeah, I'm glad that you got to tell your side of the story and of those situations or whatnot.
Yeah,
and she could make that clear.
Yeah. I mean, we're still talking, so I couldn't have done something.
Yeah,
I couldn't have done something that bad, but I don't know. I had to just not pay attention to what was happening for a long time. But some key people that we both know were kind of like told people like, hey, do you know what's going on? And I didn't, but yeah. Anywho, but I think that I have a really strong team. I want to know more. Like, I don't know shit about the Catherine Freer schools. I don't know shit about a lot of schools. I'm just starting to learn about like a lot of the Christian stuff. But I really want to have like a strong idea of like what, like if you graduated and you knew the entire programming that happened at your school, I want to know what the differences were between all of the school, because the biggest thing I want my documentary specifically to be, like my main one, is that I want to make a family tree in the way that in the program, it showed like the family tree of like where the school started in CEDU was like right here. And then it was like the WASP schools. Like, so it was like, CEDU, like these were our profits and we did, these were the little things that we did. And then when it went to this school, it changed into this. And then it went to this and this, so that we can talk about those things that happened to us. And so that there could be some kind of therapy for what we went through. And, debunk what we went through, because the thing that's the hardest about making this documentary are the people that call me, and at the end of my conversation, they say to me, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm sure you don't want to use me in the documentary with all my good feelings about being at CEDU." And I'm like, if we don't talk about you, then when you're talking about your good feelings about CEDU later on, that debunks my fucking documentary. Of course, we're going to talk about you. But it's not that, I'm talking about all aspects of being there, because we were an experiment, like, and there were slightly positive outcomes from that experiment. And I'm even afraid to tell you this, man, but it's like, there has to be something, right? It's not like these places are just going to close down. Because when CEDU closed, we thought they couldn't exist anymore. And then when I meet you, it's like, no, they exist, but they just got worse, right? So if we close all these places, they're only going to be worse somewhere else. They're not going to just be better magically on their own. I think that the survivor community are the only people that are uniquely fucking qualified to be those people. And I'm not saying that we all should need to start our own troubled teen schools. I'm saying that there should be some sort of council or something that if you're a fucking school like that, a survivor has to be there to make sure those kids are okay, or something like that. That like in the way that in AA, there's a who runs an AA group? It's a fucking drunk that runs this shit, because they know better, right? They know what's going on. So a survivor working in a troubled teen school, making sure that those kids are okay, maybe that's something. And I just thought of that while talking to you. But it's like, you know what I mean? Like if we're not the ones that are fucking bringing on that change, you know what I mean? It's not like my documentaries be like, ooh, this was horrible, woe is me, like, oh, it's so bad. And it's like, okay, yeah, there's that part, but like, I really want this to be a change. And I think that it can be, because I think that we're the only ones that could change it. And especially because half of my friends are against my documentary because they only want me to talk about how good it was. And that sounds crazy to anybody that didn't go to CEDU.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just insane. Like, we were the Coca-Cola with the actual cocaine in it. We were the original formula for all this shit, and we actually had cocaine in ours.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How many CEDU people have you done since you've talked to me? You did Ricky, and you did
I can't remember. It's been I can't really remember. Probably like maybe 2 or 3 since I talked.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. I've done a lot of interviews, so I kind of lost track.
I know, man. I don't know how you would remember anything anymore.
That's why I make playlists of every single new school I come across. So every single school, I have a playlist section, and I have all the schools in there. But
oh shit, really?
They're just all individual playlists, and it's organized. But
oh my God.
But yeah, so that's awesome about your documentary.
Yeah, no, but it's like, Jordan, this is yours too, man. Like I want like it's, like whatever it's called. I'm not really sure what it's exactly, but it's gonna, in quotes, a survivor's documentary. It's going to be ours. Like my music is not in the soundtrack of this fucking documentary, and I'm a musician. Even if you're not going to do an interview, if you don't feel comfortable doing an interview, pick your best song and I will put it in there. Do you know what I mean? Like that, I want people to feel a part of it, even if they can only give $100, or even if they can only do an interview, even if they can only send in a picture, anything, like
just a showcase of like survivors and like
anything. Like, if you want to be a part of it, I want you to be a part of it. If you don't want to be a part of it, tell me. If you know what I mean? Like, my fucking director, my director, AP, keeps on fucking sending me texts. Did you get this release form signed yet? Did you get this release form signed yet? Because when I was in LA, I fucked up and didn't get a release form signed. But it's like, I feel nervous because I'm like, these people know what I'm doing, and I'm very vocal about what I'm doing. What if they all of a sudden feel uncomfortable with what I'm doing and they don't want to be in the documentary anymore? You know what I mean? Then I don't want them to be in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's not like a diss. That's not like, this is an uncomfortable subject. And I understand this is a fucking, this is very scary. But I do know that when I did those seven survivor interviews, when I was in LA and San Diego a couple months ago, people walked in and they saw a professional fucking set. My friend works in fucking film. And they gave the interview of their life. And like, I don't think any single one of them would ever ask for, for me to not put it in there. But I kind of want to, I'm going to sound and be like, oh, we signed this, you know what I mean? But like, I feel like a dick, because what if I do something politically or in the activist side of this that they don't agree with? You know what I mean? Then I don't want them to be like, oh, I don't want, so I feel very responsible for people's privacy, you know what I mean? I feel, but I'm not going to be quiet about the way I do this, because I am definitely in life-threatening situations while making this stuff. So I think that me freaking live streaming every once in a while is the only way to keep me safe, and being so opinionated. But I'm aware that, that makes people uncomfortable. But the people that I interviewed, I feel like, are now just more on my team, and they're more producers now than just survivor interviews. Like, I mostly feel like the people that I interviewed are more producers now than anything. So yeah, it's crazy, man. It's like, I got other shit to do too, man. Like, I started a guitar repair school, and like, I got a techno freaking month-long event called January that involves like a bunch of different, like I got a techno friend in Italy, in Germany, and in France, who we're all like trying to, like, I have all these friends that we're trying to make a month-long techno event for the month of January called January. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, okay, we've got to do the documentary. But it's like, I got other shit to do, but I'm like, this is so important. And yeah, I think this is going to be the greatest achievement in my life, and I didn't even mean to, but it's because of you, like, it's because of you. So don't think that, like, don't take that in any lightly way. Like, I tell people all the time about you, and like, I just think you're such a wonderful fucking human, and you're such a hero for this community, and like, thank you every day. And I'm sorry for like all the pain that you go through, and it's hard for you to, go out, and money, and health conditions or whatever, but like, we're always thinking of you. Me and my team are always thinking of you, and like, we would be nothing. You're like the backbone of everything. So yeah, we all love you.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate it. That means a lot. How can people contact you if they want to become involved?
Just they can email me. My email is buntown, lowercase BUNNTOWN @AOL.com, or you can just MySpace, or not MySpace, Facebook me. But yeah, I'll talk to you. Like, and if you want to do an interview and you don't want, your identity, we don't have to show your picture, whatever, it could be in any way that you feel comfortable. If you have, any sort of paperwork, and if any evidence or any proof, but like, but it's also like, if you have you know, maybe a letter that you'd written home and that your parents still have, stuff like that. Like, you know, anything, you know, a lot of people burn their all this stuff because you know, it obviously feels better afterwards, you know, but like, I've talked to some authors that we know, and like we're trying to see if there might be like an actual archive somewhere, like in like LA, is kind of where everybody thought it should be, where, you know, anyone that has like a scrapbook or photographs or anything like that can just send it there, so that they know that this mistake won't be repeated. You know what I mean? Like, not in the way that, like, you know, like, so that you don't have to burn it. Like, there could go somewhere so that, like, you know, we can learn from this fucking awful thing that happened to us, and it's not, you know, it's not just thrown away. But yeah.
Is it strictly people that have went to CEDU or
No, everyone. Like mine, you know, I know about CEDU, and like I do need, if you went to CEDU, and you know, I really need interviews from 1970 to 1985. Like I really need early interviews. I've talked to some people in the 80s and the 90s and later. I've talked to people that were there in the early 60s. But there's big gaps missing of the 70s that I want to figure out. But and I'm willing to talk to anybody. We're always finding out stuff. You know, even if you have good or bad things to say about being there, I'm learning things every day. And I remember a lot about being there, and I graduated. So, but oh, what was I gonna say? There's a lot of schools I don't know about. I'm learning about new schools every day. And you know, especially if your school's so fucking active, you know, yeah, contact me. But if your school's active, call me, yes. But like, you know, I want to find the people that have researched and worked and are tired. You know, like I want to find the people that are like about to go bonkers with what they found and don't know what to do. Yeah, come find me. I want to help you. Like we'll make sure that we don't go crazy, because if we all know how crazy this is, like I know how crazy this is. Find me, and we'll keep each other sane long enough to make this so that everyone else will know. You know, like. When I got out to meet Jessica in April, 30 years to the month when I was dropped off in California, I realized that everyone that had tried to make a CEDU specific documentary had lost their mind before it could be finished. And that, like, you know, people that were sane that we know had all of a sudden just been almost batshit crazy. And then when I was in DC screaming to people, shut the fuck up, when I was on the phone because I was trying to talk over them, and then I'm hanging up on people because I'm realizing that I am now the crazy person in the room and that I have completely lost my mind. I'm like, okay, like this is a really hard subject, because what happens is you'll get to the amount of knowledge, and when other people you talk to are a year behind what you know, you start screaming at them. You just start screaming at them, because I've heard it being done to me and I've done it to others now. Yeah, if you're working on this, find me. I will be doing this for a long time. My website is www.cedudocumentary.com. Our production company is called Breaking Bands Productions LLC. Breaking bands meant like breaking the rules, or like singing a bad song or talking to somebody you weren't supposed to. Yeah, man, we want to change the world. And like, I know it sounds like, you know, big, you know, pie in the sky ideas, but it's like, I think that we can. I think with the internet, and I think that with, you know, a couple of documentaries, and like, who knows, man? Like, who fucking knows? It really could be possible. But you're the backbone. So like, I hate when I see you struggling, man. Like, I'll see, you know, and it's like, I'm like, so I texted her, I'm like, stay strong. We're going to do something. But I'm like, just know that, like, I really want to make sure that you're taken care of someday, because you've been through a lot. listening, just through listening to all the stories, like, it takes a lot. Like, you go through trauma when you have to hear stuff like over and over again. We know that from our T.T.I. stuff, but you do it of your own free will because it helps people, and it will come back to you. I promise. I promise.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted, but nobody's like, only survivors have contacted you to get like more interviews. Like directors haven't contacted you, or people making documentaries haven't talked to you either.
No.
That blows my mind.
No,
I was sure that
it might be shadow banned. I don't know. There's powerful people. Like, I don't know. Maybe my account's like shadow banned, but I have 3 different accounts, so I don't know why. I don't know how that could happen.
That's weird.
I don't know. Maybe, it'll happen. It should happen eventually, maybe. But it'll happen. It'll happen when the right time is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's meant to be, then I will hear from them.
Yeah. How many have you done now? How many?
Like 125, something like that.
That's crazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we were supposed to be here with Jessica. I think I don't know, we lost her, but Jessica's a member of my team. She went to Cascade. And she's like a big part of my team. She's pretty sad right now, and we really wanted to have her. So hopefully we'll do another one where we get to have her. But she's one of the people that I found that, like, she had worked really hard for a long time, and like she was the first person I'd met, and I was like, do you want to like, fold your like, do you want me to like have your documentary like be a part of my documentary? And I meant it to be like a diss. Like, I was like, do you want to like, and she was like, God, please, Jesus, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, so like, I've taken on a lot of other people's work in this, and that is important to me. So I'm a little worried about her because I haven't talked to her in a little while, but she's, Jessica, I wore your bracelet. Wore the bracelet. That was when I was visiting her. A survivor sent her like a bunch of bracelets in the mail, and she's like, "All right, she picked the most pink one and gave it to me." And I haven't taken it off since you gave it to me.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope she's okay too. I don't know what happened today. You never heard back from her?
No, but I mean, it's understandable. Like, we cut like a lot of what happens like when I work with people, like it's like they'll come and go, and I can't fault them for that because it's like this shit's stressful, and if it's not your everyday, if you have kids and a job, and you don't think about this all the time, you don't have to think about this all the time. Even when I had a bunch of Facebook groups that I'm not running anymore because I'd let them go for so long. There's other people run them now. Like, if you want to add, my Facebook group is called CEDU Was Wrong is my Facebook group. But there's like there is a bunch of them, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of them were mine, and that I just like wouldn't look at them for a year or 3, and that somebody else took them over, which is fine. But it's just because you can only talk about it for so long, and then you just can't. It's just too stressful. Life goes on. So
yeah, I feel like a lot of us just dissociate after a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, but like, yeah, it's gonna be okay someday. And I think that like I can't believe, like, I just found out about the Teen Torture Inc. just coming out, and like, like I didn't even know about that one. I didn't know about that one at all.
No. That one's about Bethel, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I'm pretty sure that one's about Bethel, which will be interesting. That's a religious school, so that should be interesting to see.
Yeah. See, I don't know anything about like, yeah. I mean, I do know that it's just like it's just tell you you're an awful person. But so like I wonder if they had any of the like,
It's essentially the same thing, but they justify everything they do because of God.
Right. But did they build the kids up? Was there any sort of like emotional roller coaster where they felt good or bad?
It's just mainly just breaking them down. You're bad. You're bad. You're in sin. You have to cleanse yourself. In whatever fucking way appeases the person in charge there.
Man, these cults don't know what they're fucking doing. How are they going to keep people in these cults if they're not giving them something to come back for?
I know. I mean, nobody's gonna want to stay in your fucking cult if you're abusing them every day.
It's like that's why I knew I was in a cult.
But see, they don't have a choice. So
Yeah.
and that's the only reason that they're there.
It's like that's the whole thing about it. It's like CEDU is like we did have horses and we did have a fucking farm and we did have like rock climbing and guitars everywhere. Like we did that picture perfect, the brochure, that was the CEDU campus. And like we didn't have locks on the doors. So it's like when I heard about your shit, and then like people will be online and they'll be like, oh, don't belittle what CEDU was like. I'm like, have you talked to the people that went to WASP? Do you want to talk about it again after that? I'm like, were you ever not allowed to have a fucking condiments when you were at CEDU? Like the difference between what you went through and what I went through was fucking night and day. And anybody that doesn't want to recognize that really fucking pisses me off, because if they didn't listen to our first couple of podcasts and you still want to say that, like, you know what I mean, that we had the same experience, that fucking makes me really mad, because I had Club Med compared to what you had. But I think that it was because they just, close CEDU down, right? And they're not paying attention to what was coming up next, because what came next was so much worse. And we didn't think that it could have happened. And I'm afraid that if all these places close, there's just going to be more secrecy, and it's just going to be harder to, get like whatever's going to be after.
Well, when these places close, they try and dump all the evidence right away.
Yeah.
It seems like, or they try and like the records disappeared, or they got destroyed in a fire, or they got destroyed in a flood. It's really fucking convenient for that to happen. All the records, all the fucking video footage is just gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not.
I don't buy that.
It's not. Don't worry.
That at all. I think somebody has it somewhere. I think somebody might even read that every day. I think there's some really sick people in the world that might actually have some of this shit stockpiled just to read, like, the misery of every child in there. My mind goes to dark places sometimes, but I feel like there might.
A lot of it was just
that.
A lot of it was there. What can I say? A lot of it wasn't even thought about. A lot of it they didn't even think about. They just like a lot of it. They weren't even thinking about if anybody would go back for it. That's all I'll say. Like, I thought maybe that they faked the first thing in the program when they walk in and see all those files. I don't really think so anymore. Right when I first watched it, I was like, oh, that's so cool. They just walked in it. But then like my director was like, they faked that. I was like, oh, we were lied to. The director lied to us. I'm like, no, it's just Hollywood magic. They have to do that. But then I'm like, when I find out more, I don't think there's a big possibility that's
definitely real. Yeah.
There's a pretty big possibility that they really did just walk in and all that shit was there. That's like it's a very high possibility. Now that I know more. It
sounds crazy. Like if you were to tell somebody that without like the footage, that I don't think I'd believe. I don't know if I'd believe somebody if they just told me that happened. I'd probably be 50-50, but seeing the footage is just like, you can't refute that.
Well, it's like I knew that there was gonna be bad shit in the program from talking to me. It was the beatings, Jordan. Like that. We didn't, there was no need for that to happen at CEDU, because the program at CEDU worked like we beat ourselves. Like they forced us to work ourselves 200%. And if we didn't, we were brought into a room of our peers and screamed at for 4 hours the next day if we didn't. So like when we see each other in the real life running somewhere, we recognize the back of our bodies, because we've seen each other run at 200% for a good amount of our lifetime before. Like I was running across the train station. A friend of mine ran up to me. He's like, Kari Bun. I was like, holy shit. He's like, I recognize you from across the train station by the way that you ran. It's like we had to overexert ourselves to such extent that for a staff to put their hand on us physically would have been unnecessary and totally unneeded, because they made us abuse ourselves. But like when I saw the program and it was like flat out, like physical abuse, it was just like, like when I was talking to staff that are trying to help me in my documentary, like some staff, I'm like, don't watch the program. Like, please don't watch the program. Like, just don't watch it. Like, I'm telling them not to fucking watch it because I'm like, Jesus Christ, don't watch it. It's horrible. You know what I mean? And like, they're like, oh, I watched it. No, it is fucking horrible. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, and I'm like, I know that you weren't like this. You know what I mean? And do you know how crazy it is? I know that I sound crazy. And I'm telling my staff that I still loved from being at CEDU. I'm like, I know that you didn't beat the shit out of us there. And I told staff, I was like, if people show up with pitchforks at your fucking door, give people my number, because I'm making a documentary about our specific school, and I know that most of you were not fucking monsters. Like, there's a couple people I will not vouch for, and they know who the fuck they are. But there's a good amount of them that if we are aware of each other, they know that, like, I think that their story is valid. Maybe I'm sure that it's fucked up that maybe some weird things happen, but it's a cult, man. Like, it's different when you're going somewhere and it's your job and you're looking at the people above you for how to act and how to be treating these kids. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that people don't take into consideration when they're just like, oh, there's no reason to talk to staff. There's no reason to understand why they work there. Oh, they're all complicit. It's like, you can't say that about everybody. Like, because you'll know that, like, there's people that only work there because they knew that if they left, whoever else was going to take their place would be worse than them. And there were definitely staff members at a lot of places that knew that. They're like, okay, if I'm here, maybe I can make sure that so it's not so bad for some of the people. And I think that those people's stories should be told, because they've told me shit that, trust me, we want them to be able to talk to us, man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they want to help. They want to help.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. For sure.
Oh man, we could talk for forever. But I just wanted you to know that, like, this is not over. This is gonna take years. Like, I don't know how many years. But I'd say like 2, maybe 3, I guess. But I don't know how many hours this thing is going to be, and I don't know how many either.
Just make it into different parts,
or if it's going to be a sequel, or yeah. But I want to help other major ones be made with the information that I've gathered, because it's ridiculously insane. Yeah. But this all started with you, Jordan, and like, I make sure that everyone knows who you are, and you know, I see you. I see you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just let me know, keep me updated, and if anybody wants to get involved with her documentary, just get a hold of her. Yeah.
Oh, I love you so much. Yeah, I hope that, you know, if you have a negative opinion of me, you know, ask me about what you know, what's going on, or, you know, but yeah, I will respond to you if you you know, I'm not so good with the email, and I don't check it too often, but on just if you friend me on Facebook, I'll talk to you. And I'll try to be better with my email, because it is an AOL account. I did make this email account when I was 17 or 18. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I will talk to you, you know, like, I will hear your story. Like, the one thing I don't like is, like, please, like, if you have a really crazy, you know, super, super emotionally exhausting story, that, like, if you tell it to me, like, I will feel that, right? So, like, that might make it so that I'm depressed for a week. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because when you're telling me your fucking life story and it's insane, and, you know, you're hitting all of the worst parts to get to me to tell me how crazy it is, I sometimes will be like, okay, I'll have a panic attack for a couple of days, and, you know, the people in my life will be like, oh my God, this is so hard for you. And it's like, okay, well, I have to listen to these stories, right? But then if you never talk to me again, that's really going to make me mad. That's really going to make me mad, because, like, Now all I can think about are the things that you told me, and I know that they're never going to get fixed, and that sucks because I felt like I got used for therapy with some people. So like if you tell me your story, and I want to know what happened, but try to make it so that like I'm not going to feel like all of your pain because it's hard. It's gonna make it hard for me to function for the next day. So you can be like, hey, if you can, like, and it's so hard to be like, hey, if you can sum it up, if you can try to tell me your story quickly, so that when I interview you, that's where the juicy stuff comes out. That's preferable. Because I know we all have crazy, stories about being there. So yeah, let it come out in the interview. Let it basically let it come out in the interview when I come to interview you. Yeah. But then when I talk to people, I don't fucking write shit down. I'm not like video recording our conversations because this is all really sensitive stuff, you know what I mean? And like, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel comfortable doing that with people. So, yeah, so everything's like reporter style, like off the record until like like I want you to use this, so yeah. Yeah, I'm not planning on like I want you to make sure everything possible to not get sued after this comes out, basically. but not even for that reason, because I don't want to hurt anybody making this, you know what I mean? Enough of us have been hurt, so I want to make sure that as many people want to help. If you have any professional capacity to help us, whether it be in any way, like get in touch with me, because we're gonna need, like there's a guy he makes puppets. He's like a puppetry studio, and he was like, oh, I'll recreate scenes with puppets. Done. You're now puppetry art. You're my art, you're my art freaking department puppetry division. Like, that's the coolest thing. That's so like, how much symbolism is that to have a puppets, like that, like recreating things about a cult school. We were all puppets. It's like, it's perfect. It's like, like, and he's proud to do that. You know what I mean? I looked him up, and he's like a real puppetry studio. So I'm like, that's great. Like, so yeah, I know I've rambled on for a long time, but like, I had no idea how big this was going to be. I don't know if I would have done it if I knew how big it was going to be. But like it all started with you. And I'll try to send more people your way. And I'm definitely coming to Seattle for like a while to interview you, and we'll hang out and figure out how to fucking fix this goddamn problem.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Oh man.
Is there anything else?
No, that's it. No, just yeah, you'll see my documentary soon, and I do have a YouTube channel. It's at CEDU but yeah, you can just find me on my yeah, you can just find me. There's no other Kari bun.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing about your documentary. Keep us posted for sure, and get in contact with her if you want to be part of that documentary. So with that being said, we will see you on the next one. You guys have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah.